The silent pain of loving someone who makes you feel alone. There's a kind of loneliness that hurts more than sleeping alone at night. It is the loneliness of lying next to someone who no longer sees you, hears you, or cares about the tears you hide. The deepest heartbreak is not when the relationship ends, it is when the relationship is still alive but your heart has already been abandoned. Hey there, if this is your first time of joining my channel, please subscribe, click on the notification button, like and share. And to my subscribers, you know I hold you so much dear to my heart. Thank you for your support. Thank you for always watching my videos. You never imagined that the person you loved the most will become you the person who made you feel the most invisible. At the beginning, everything felt beautiful. The conversation never ended. The laughter came naturally. You felt safe. You believed you had finally found someone who would never let your face live alone. But slowly, things started to change. The messages came shorter, the phone calls became few, the excitement disappeared. You started noticing that you were always the one making the effort. You were the one asking how the day went. You were the one planning the time together. You were the one trying to fix every misunderstanding. You kept hoping things would return to the way they used to be. Instead, the distance kept growing. The hardest part was that another person thought everything was fine. They saw pictures, they saw smiles, they believed you were happy. They never saw you crying quietly after another night of being ignored. They never saw you standing at your phone waiting for a reply that never came. They never heard the silence that filled your home after every unanswered question. You began asking yourself painful question. Am I no longer enough? Did I do something wrong? Why does the person I love makes me feel like I don't matter? You blamed yourself because it was easier than accepting the truth. You changed the way you spoke. You changed the way you dressed. You became more patient. You tried working harder, you loved harder, but no matter what you did, nothing changed. You cannot force someone to give what they already decided to withhold. One evening, you sat across from each other. The room was quiet, not because there was peace, because there was nothing left to say. You realize that strangers sometimes showed you more kindness than the person who promised to love you forever. That realization broke something inside you. You miss the person sitting right beside you. You miss the relationship while you were still in it. That is one of the saddest feeling a human heart can experience. You stop talking about your pain because every conversation ended the same way. You complained too much, you think too much, you are too emotional. Little by little, you learn to survive, you learn to suffer in silence. You smile outside, you cried inside. You carried a loneliness that nobody could see. Then one day, something unexpected happened. You looked at yourself in the mirror. For the first time in a long time, you asked one simple question. When did I stop caring about myself? You realized that while you had spent months trying to save the relationship, nobody had been trying to save you. You deserved more than being tolerated. You deserved to be loved. You deserved conversation that made you feel important. You deserve hugs that made you feel safe. You deserve someone who noticed your silence disappears. That day your healing began, not because the pain disappeared, but because you finally understood that being alone is not the worst thing in life. The worst thing in life is feeling alone with someone who keeps reminding you that your heart no longer matters. You slowly started rebuilding your life. You spent time with people who accepted your presence. You You rediscovered that the hobbies you had abandoned, you laughed with you laughed without pretending. You slept peaceful for the first time in months. Then something surprising happened. The same person who had ignored you noticed the change. They asked why you had become distant. They wondered why you no longer begged for attention. They finally saw the emptiness they had created. But by then, something inside you had shifted. You no longer needed someone else's approval to feel valuable. You learned that love should never leave you feeling invisible. A relationship should be a place where your heart rests, not a place where it slowly breaks every single day. The greatest lesson was not that someone failed to love you. The greatest lesson was discovering that your happiness should never depend on someone who keeps making you feel alone. If someone truly loves you, they will make room for your voice. Your feelings are your feelings and your presence. Real love does not leave you wondering where you stand. Real love does not make you beg to be noticed. And if you ever find yourself feeling lonely in a relationship, remember this: you deserve a love that makes you feel chosen every day, not one that makes you question whether you belong. One day you will meet people who remind you that genuine love feels like who reminds you of what genuine love feels like. And when that day comes, you will look back and realize that leaving behind loneliness was the beginning of finding yourself again.